Here we go now. Here we go now. All right. It's not the best that we've ever had, but it technically counts. That is
kind of how this week has gone.
Yes, exactly. After one of the strangest weekends in sports, we open up with one of the strangest burps in sports. Welcome to one of the strangest podcasts in sports. This is Running Out the Clock. I'm your friend, Joseph Craven. We are streaming live on YouTube, as we've started doing in our recording sessions now. So if you're listening later on and want to jump into some of our live recording sessions later on and witness the madness firsthand, go to our YouTube channel and check that out. I am joined by ROTC co-founder, nicknamed Hugh Freeze's Boogermobile, Chandler Roundling. Right?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Someone called me Rowling this weekend. Yeah. So
just Rowling, not anything else?
Yeah, just Rowling, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also got Keith Big Red Harkins, already bored enough to stare at his phone. Hey, Keith.
No, I'm just watching some Cincinnati Reds fans fight in the stands. And they're about to fall off the balcony.
Okay.
Anyway, hello, everybody.
Send me that link. That'd be good.
Yeah, I get sidetracked by sports fights often.
Speaking of people getting sidetracked by fights often, our own WorldStarHipHop.com expert, Ro Hunter, is out on maternity leave right now as they are awaiting the birth of their child. So we are joined by first alternate, Gray Barnes. Gray, what's up, man?
Not much. I'm trying to get the live stream promoted so that we will have maybe 2 or 3 more people join in on the live stream.
2 or 3, awesome.
Yeah, more than the 0 that we have right now.
How does one go about promoting the live stream?
I haven't really come up with a plan for that yet, so it might not happen.
Probably the same way you promote anything, by just sharing it on social media. Smash that subscribe button. Smash it. Hey, all right. So week 3 of the college football season was bizarre. Here's just a few things, a few of the weird things that happened this past weekend. All right. You had Michigan State about to hit a game-tying field goal, but had too many people on the field. So they had to re-kick it and missed their second attempt. All right. You had, of course, a couple of SEC weirdness, basically the entirety of the Kentucky and Florida game, but especially the end of the Kentucky and Florida game, with Kentucky completely collapsing under pressure.
That game was a literal just episode of like Benny Hill the entire time.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk more about that in a bit. You had Mississippi State freshman quarterback Garrett Schrader get sent into orbit on a hit.
Yeah, he's an astronaut now, certified.
Yeah. Wait, where is Schrader from?
North Carolina somewhere.
Take it off your head, spin him like a helicopter. Come on, let's go.
Quite literally.
Hey, I mean,
little Petey Pablo up in here.
The ceiling is the roof.
I miss him.
Yes.
There's a North Carolina.
Rest in peace.
Yep.
Yeah.
You had Florida State getting bailed out at the end, Florida State getting bailed out by a bunch of dumb Virginia penalties at the end of a potential comeback, and then completely blowing it by running some sort of wildcat formation with 4 seconds to go. I hope some of you saw that. I hope I wasn't the only one.
Look at all these teams running the Wildcat in the year of our Lord 2019.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on?
Made no sense. Not to mention the fact that Virginia fans then stormed the field after barely beating a bad Florida State team. When you're ranked, Virginia, you're the ranked team.
Act like you've been there before, guys.
Right.
I'm on the record for thinking.
Come on, Who's
rush the field for every win ever. And it's the Who's. You're the only 2 people in the world who don't know that Virginia's other nickname is the Wahoos.
That is categorically false.
Hey,
nobody that I know except for you calls them the Who's.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll put up a poll. We'll put up a poll and see how many people know that.
Chandler is in Tennessee for like 3 weeks, and suddenly it's like, well, everybody I know calls him the Who's.
He's the king of Appalachia. All of a sudden over here.
I learned that in high school in Mississippi.
Oh well, excuse me. Not all of us could afford to go to prep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Private school kid.
we. Oh my goodness! So just everywhere, just weirdness. There was even international weirdness, like the equivalent of Coastal Carolina beating Clemson happened in like the English Premier League. You know, it just was everywhere. So everywhere was weird. Everywhere was weird. So we're gonna start the episode off the same ways that we always start the episode off. And first things first, we're gonna talk about the Noles. Chandler, Florida State. Go ahead. Tell me about that last end of the game, last ditch effort to score points that the Criminals attempted, man.
I didn't. So I was out of town all weekend. I didn't get to see any of it, but just reading the Twitter feeds and seeing the GIF reactions and then seeing the actual video of it was just fantastic. And I don't. So talking about the Noles, I don't know. I just saw this on Twitter a minute ago. There's like a 10-year-old Florida State fan who started a lemonade stand to try to help buy out Willie Taggart's contract.
Yes,
because his buyout is like $20 million.
Wow.
When your buyout is that high, you can afford to make post-game comments like, "I didn't call the plays. Kendall Briles called the plays."
And then also,
or blaming your loss on the sun.
Our team wasn't properly hydrated because, again, who could have known it was going to be hot in Florida in August?
Yeah.
Robo Chandler coming in hot on
Robo
that
Chan.
I'm so
Robo
sorry.
Chandler. No, but absolutely, like it just.
Hugh Freeze's Boogermobile doesn't have Wi-Fi on it.
It's on a hot spot. Yeah, it just. I know if you're getting paid that, if your buyout's that big, then yeah, throw everyone under the bus. Who cares anymore? Any respect I had, I think, for Willie Taggart is kind of out the window after
it's gone
after the first few weeks of this season. So, let's move on from the Noles then. Let's just go ahead and move on from them. Let's jump into another opening segment that we sometimes like to do, where we try to fight the constant negativity in the sports world by giving a shout out to someone that we feel like maybe deserves a little bit of credit in the world of sports. Not always college football, not always SEC, but just in the world of sports. Does anyone have any nominees? Raise your hand, please, if you have a nominee. Gray, quick to answer. Hit me with it.
Yes, shout out to Big Spain Marc Gasol for winning an NBA title and then also the FIBA championship. What a year for Big Spain.
What a year for Big Spain. You say Big Spain, and I instantly think of there being, like when people say like Big Tobacco, you know, that's what I picture. I picture Spain being a weird, evil corporation. That is.
Yeah, I've just filed a lawsuit against it.
Okay. All right. Big Spain getting a shout out on the pod. Anyone else got any nominees?
I mean, this one hits close to home for two reasons, but Jerry Ely scored his first two of hopefully many touchdowns. So pretty cool to see the Jackson Prep alum turned Ole Miss Rebel doing what he was recruited to do. Had a great game, even if the opponent sucked.
Yeah, we do sometimes. We call it giving someone credit that deserves some credit and maybe isn't getting it, a.k.a. the which Ole Miss player is Chandler going to give credit to this week award.
Look, it's not every day that Jackson Prep produces legit Division I talent. So I'm riding this horse as long as I possibly can.
But it is every day that they put in the curriculum to teach their students that who the Who's are.
Who the Wahoos are, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, we could have used some instruction on who the Who actually was last week because I just looked at our score predictions and I remembered that Roe predicted Pete Townsend, his favorite member of the Who, would win a game. So shout out again to Roe, who doesn't know anything about football or classic rock. Keith, you got anyone you want to give some credit to?
Yeah. I don't know if he's getting a whole lot of credit. He should be. Sawyer Smith of the Kentucky Wildcats had a hell of a game, and much to my despair for about 3 hours last night, He was really, really good. Annoyingly so.
Right.
Like you hope that when the starting quarterback of like 2 years goes down, that like the next guy up is just super average and not Steve Young. So
yeah, the grad he is a grad transfer, if I remember correctly. The grad transfer from Troy, if I remember. Yeah, then that's right.
From Oregon. Terry Wilson or Sawyer Smith?
Sawyer Smith.
Sawyer Smith. Did he come in from Oregon? Is that right? I'll look it up.
I thought Wilson came in from Oregon.
Anyway. Okay. Either way, yeah.
He was good.
Absolutely. Yeah, we weren't sure what was going to happen with Kentucky after Terry Wilson went down. And so it was really cool to see.
Turns out they're probably fine.
Yeah, turns out there's a reason they brought him in. I'm going to give a quick shout out, not super long about it, to an SEC alum in Deebo Samuel, former South Carolina wide receiver, had himself a good NFL game out there with the 49ers today. Got his first NFL touchdown. Clocked 5 receptions for 87 yards as well. So good for him. Shout out to any NFL wide receiver. If you want to have a good fantasy football or if you want to have a good performance, let me know. I'll put you on my fantasy football bench, and then you'll do great because that's happened 2 weeks in a row, and I'm in pain. So there you go. There's our opening little there's giving some shout outs to some people we think deserved it. So as mentioned, few weird games this past weekend. Let's recount scores real quick. Alabama beat South Carolina 47-23. Georgia 55-0 over Arkansas State. LSU hung 65 points up on poor Northwestern State, who got 14 out of the deal, though. They did get 14. So 65-14. Auburn 55, Kent State 16. Florida, Kentucky, obviously, came down to the very, very end. Florida had a 19-point fourth quarter to secure a 29-21 victory. Texas A&M took it to Lamar 62-3. Kansas State handed the Mississippi State Bulldogs their first loss of the season, 31-24. Tennessee got a victory against Chattanooga, 45-0. Ole Miss 40, Southeastern Louisiana 29. Arkansas 55, Colorado State 34. I wasn't really sure about that one beforehand, and that's kind of weird to me. But anyway, and Missouri 50-0 over in-state heated rival Southeast Missouri, not Eastern, just Southeast Missouri. So there's the quick scores. A few of these, I mean, just some weird games. We pointed out, obviously, let's start with that Alabama-South Carolina game real quick. Did anyone here predict that South Carolina would be able to drop 23 points on Alabama before this weekend? Because I'm not sure I felt that way about it, and I think that's a very interesting scoreline there for sure. I mean, Chandler, what's your thoughts on this one? Because I think you actually were texting us a little bit during the game about how Alabama was looking in particular.
Yeah, it's weird. First off, I thought it was awesome that Ryan Helinski's first SEC start, he came out and showed a lot of grit and showed a lot of ability. And I mean, obviously we're all pulling for that guy because of his story and his family background and everything. But I thought he showed some things for South Carolina that they can really build around. And I mean, just to go in and play tough in that situation. But I mean, there's just something weird about Alabama's defense that it's just not right. It's not what we're used to seeing, I think, with Saban and the way that thing usually goes. And the other thing is what I noticed about the way that Alabama was scoring a lot of their touchdowns, it'd be like a broken tackle and then off to the races, or a slant route that went completely uncovered. And I did
see that one nasty Najee Harris run.
Yeah,
where he shrugged off 4 guys. That was weird.
So I don't think that really means anything until they get to a team like an LSU or like a Georgia in the SEC championship game that is not going to have those same flaws. And those Alabama receivers are great, but they're not going up against anybody that has any sort of like comparable talent level to them right now. And, like I said, Georgia, LSU, maybe Auburn with that defensive line. We'll see what they have. But there's just so much just weird stuff happening with Alabama's defense right now that I think South Carolina may have exposed them a little bit as much as South Carolina could, as weird as that is to say after a 20-point win. But I don't know. There's something about Alabama that doesn't seem right to me right now. And everybody's just saying like, oh, they're amazing. They're back, whatever. And they haven't done anything yet.
The overall theme for this episode, as we kind of discussed earlier, is going to be a theme of like worry. Like we're 3 weeks into the season. This is when the SEC slate really gets going. This is where teams really have to play conference games a lot more, that sort of stuff. And so if it takes a career performance from your star quarterback Tua Tagovailoa to get that sort of comfortable victory over South Carolina, I mean, Keith, do you feel good about that? I mean, do you feel kind of worried? We'll talk more about it in a minute here, but like, if it takes that, I mean, how should Alabama really assess this sort of victory?
Yeah, I mean, I feel fine about it because I'm ready for them to stop winning. But yeah, like, there's also something to be said of like maybe they're still really good and they know that like the talent disparity between them and South Carolina is still enormous, and so they don't have to try nearly as hard. And so maybe it's just kind of one of those sleeper games where like they still win comfortably, but Tua shows out and everybody else is just kind of on cruise control. I mean, I'm sure that Nick Saban had about 15 aneurysms because they couldn't stop Hilinski, but I don't know. They're gonna be Alabama, and they're still gonna step up whenever they need to.
It's just kind of what happens a lot of times.
Until someone runs them over, then we're just gonna assume that they're fine.
That's the difference. The thing that makes you kind of wonder about that, though, is that we say that they're just going to be Alabama when the talent gets better. But I mean, they don't. Dylan Moses being gone, I think, is going to be a major blow to them because their freshmen are good. Their freshmen are 5-stars for sure. But you see it all the time. Freshmen taking over. Important positions like that, that they've got the talent, but they don't have the seasoning, or that they don't know the playbook as well, or they don't know because Saban treats that inside linebacker as kind of the quarterback of the defense, that he calls all the alignments and stuff, and those guys may not be ready for that yet, and that's something you can really only create with experience.
Sure, we said the same thing about Georgia last year, and they ran everybody else off the field too, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's still too early to right. Yeah, there is that aspect of it. It's still early enough where who knows? Maybe I don't know. Maybe Alabama does absolutely turn it on very quickly once and it's just one of those things where this wasn't it. But who knows?
Well, and the thing about Tua having a career game, that's just what Tua does. Like, he just has career games
like
every week.
Every game he plays is a new career game. Like, he's like the juggernaut, He better beat him early because once he gets going, he's literally unstoppable.
All right, I don't know if I agree with that, but yeah, I mean it's a fair.
His 27 Heisman's proved me right.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's fair. Gray, we talked a little bit. I mean, obviously, a lot of the focus is on the Alabama defense in particular here. Hilinski threw for over 300 yards. Rico Dowdle had over 100 yards on the ground. Man, that was weirdly difficult.
Rico Dowdle, howdy.
Rico Dowdle, had over 100 yards on the ground. I mean, against a team that maybe can finish drives better than South Carolina is capable of doing. Should Alabama's defense, which is obviously more vulnerable than in years past. Is this going to open the door, you think, to them dropping some conference performances, especially against like an LSU offense that's clicking?
Yeah, I mean, that's immediately, looking at the result of that game. The first thing that would come to mind would be that showdown with LSU later, and how that their new style is really, really working for them, and it's highlighting the talent that they've been able to brought in. I mean, they've always had really, really good to elite talent at skill positions, but maybe not necessarily were able to highlight those with like a Matt Canada or somebody like that, because it's really, really,
or whoever else was there. I mean, it's just kind of seemed like this whole list of names we just kind of forgot.
Yeah, I can picture the guy's face, the old guy. I can't remember. I think he's in the NFL now. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, allowing a 100-yard rusher and then a quarterback in his first SEC start. I mean, granted, he threw the ball like 20 million times,
right?
But
there's a Boilermaker loose in someone's yard.
There is. The Boilermaker's here, guys.
It is the train that literally runs through my side yard. So
excellent. I mean, I think it should give cause for concern. Like I said, Hilinski, his first SEC start, and I mean, he had relative success against an Alabama defense. It's early in the year, but having to rely on youth, without Moses, they're kind of locking it down in the middle. Will they be able to make improvements week by week in the SEC schedule? Probably. It is Alabama. They tend to do things like that, but I think it would give Nick Saban cause for concern for sure, and all the Roll Tiders. I don't know, maybe have something to worry about for the big games in this season.
I mean, it's not necessarily obvious whether or not this is a very actual vulnerable Alabama team. They seem to be the most vulnerable that they've been in a few seasons, just kind of in general, especially when you look at, I mean, what was probably supposed to be the most secure part of the defense coming into this season outside of Dylan Moses is the secondary. Like, there were more question marks along Alabama's defensive line and all their early departures than anything else. The secondary was supposed to be something that kind of kept them together. And I know Hilinski didn't end up averaging very much on any of his completions, but he still threw the ball a lot. You got to think that maybe an offense that's running a good passing attack, like, say, LSU's seemingly best wide receivers in the conference, set up there, maybe that will give them some cause for concern. Who knows? It's still early enough, but this is about the time in which you start to see some things that might carry over throughout the rest of the season. And that's just an example right there. Along with that, let's focus on we'll go with the first loss that Mississippi State has suffered on the season to that Kansas State team, a Kansas State team that, in my mind, it's kind of like whenever like teams had to play Georgia Tech when Georgia Tech was real good and running the triple option. It's like nobody plays offense like this anymore. So like you don't know what to do with it, and so like that's kind of what a power running offense is in modern college football now, which is weird to think about. But Kansas State, if there's anything that I say a lot on this podcast, is that you control the line of scrimmage, you win the game. Kansas State's offensive line absolutely controlled the line of scrimmage all game long. Outside of that, neither team played well. Kansas State just played better. Do you see anything in this maybe that now I know, Chandler, you weren't able to like watch the game live necessarily.
I saw a little bit of it.
Yeah. But I mean, some of the obvious question marks on the Mississippi State defense seem to be exposed there. Do you see any reason that this would be like a worrying thing for the rest of the season?
I mean, I don't know what the reasonable expectation for Mississippi State this year was going to be in the first place. They've kind of fallen into this pattern where it's 9-3, 8-4 every year, and you just kind of write that down at the beginning of the season and you move on, and it's fine. This game was always one of those games that counted as one of those wins, and
Right.
to me, the thing that was more concerning was their offensive ineptitude. If that is the right way to put it, it just, I don't know, man. I mean, it just, I thought they'd score more. Is really all I can come up with. I mean, I thought that they would be able to, even if Kansas State scored on them, which I kind of expected. I thought State would just score more easily, and they didn't. And I don't know. I don't know enough about their team to know one way or the other. But I think there's got to be. I don't know. There's something missing on offense, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's one of the weirder aspects of the game, because you look at it and you're like, man, like the offense really couldn't get much going. But like Kylan Hill had another good game.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't look like it at the start. And like the passing attack seemed to struggle a lot. But you watch some of the plays, especially early on, like it kind of was a result of it kind of ended up being some of like the same stuff as like last season, where receivers just weren't catching things. Or the first turnover of the game was, receiver Stephen Guidry, the ball hits him in the hands and he just pops it up in the air and it's picked off. It's that sort of stuff again. It was some of the last season stuff. So it's kind of like stuff that hadn't been there the first 2 weeks of the season showed up again. And that's where the big question mark is, oh, well, is this stuff going to come back for the rest of the season or not? That's kind of, I guess, the big question that the Mississippi State is trying to address now.
And I think part of that is Kansas State is a decisively better team than the team they played the first 2 weeks. So you up the competition and things start to get interesting again. And I don't know.
It really kind of reminded me a lot of the Outback Bowl game against Iowa. There weren't a lot of – there were big plays to be made, or not say big, but key plays that could be made, and they just didn't happen. And not so much that they didn't happen, but they also were very, very costly in the end. That Guidry interception, then you get all the momentum in the world after your quarterback goes out, and freshman comes in, leads a scoring drive, and you automatically give up a kick return for a touchdown. That's just those two things, don't happen, and it could have been a different game. It's just very, very key moments, like what happened against Iowa, where you have a go-ahead touchdown, I believe, that just goes right through your hands for an interception.
Right. Same player as well. Stephen Guidry again.
Exactly.
Ouch.
Maybe noticing a common denominator.
You would think.
He's not the guy that dropped that pass against Florida, is he?
No.
Actually,
okay, good.
Osiris Mitchell is balling out. This year.
Actually, that guy is getting highlight reel touchdown catches every week. So
good for him.
I think
massive turnaround for him. Massive turnaround.
I think too. Like I don't know much about Tommy Stevens other than that he was a Big Ten backup and is hurt now. But I know enough about Garrett Schrader to know that's the guy that Moorhead wanted. Moorhead went and got, and that's. Like, to have your guy is great, but you saw yesterday, like, just how hard it is to be a true freshman playing quarterback.
Yeah, most definitely.
If you're not Trevor Lawrence or Tua,
right.
And
so if you're not playing cupcake schedules,
right. If you're or if you're just a normal human,
right?
So,
Exactly.
So
if you're not Trevor Lawrence is just a freak. Let's just be honest. He's just a freak.
I think that there's just got to be some patience and some development allowed to happen. And I know that, it's one of those things that whenever you lose a game, the backup quarterback becomes the most popular person on campus, and he's certainly that helicopter play. I mean, that's the kind of thing that galvanizes the team around you. It shows that toughness, and that gets guys willing to want to play for you.
Yeah.
And then that's also the play where when he comes off the field, the coach is like, "That was awesome. Never do that again."
You never exactly.
Never.
Right. Everybody's
where he
breath was being held
responds
for like
with-
5 seconds.
That's where he responds with, "What play? What happened? Where am I?" So,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're absolutely right. Like that's, I think two things that you've mentioned in particular, Chandler, stand out to me. It's that like, well, I guess I'll focus on just one in particular. Is that like, what were the reasonable expectations for Mississippi State this season? You know, so what out of this game actually is worrying, troublesome, whatever? Because you have to take into account the factors of, this is the year in which like some of the last of Dan Mullen's guys are really getting out, you know, because this is the second year under Moorhead. He's trying to install more of his guys. It's like 2 more years with Mullen guys this season and next season with like just a Mullen, you know, recruited crew. And so it is more of a transition year in that regard. So the expectations have to be, and I think they've always been, let's just get to another bowl, you know, hopefully get 8 wins, probably 7, you know, hoping to avoid 6 type of thing. And this was one of those that was supposed to be one of the very winnable games, you know, in a transition that's very important. So just kind of knowing that, like, okay, that didn't go as planned. It also was like 105 degrees. Everyone was really lethargic. The fans weren't there, which hurts the team's momentum because they got no one cheering for them. It's hard to see what could possibly be coming back around for the rest of the season there. It's hard to see what to really read into that other than, I mean, maybe the transition is going to be a little bit more difficult this season like it was last year. Maybe it is a repeat of last season type of thing. It's very weird to not really know how to assess the impact of a loss like this one. Because kind of what Gray was saying, there were some key plays that weren't made, but at the end of the day, you can't really point at just one thing and say, oh, well, that really, they didn't do this well enough. Because there was a lot of stuff where they did it okay, and that's about it. It was weird. It's a hard game to figure out. Keith, at this point now, we've got you see Tommy Stevens dealing with a nagging like shoulder injury. It seems like you see you know the one of the best defenders on the team, Cameron Dantzler, missed the game with an injury. You've seen the suspensions that have really affected gameplay for the Bulldogs so far this season. How much do you take that into effect when you evaluate a loss or like coming out of a loss, the expectations for the rest of the season, knowing that this is, you know, a lot of players are out now, a lot for injury, suspension, whatever it may be. Keith, you look at something like that. How do you assess the personnel? I don't know what the term is for that. Just the missing personnel. Put up wanted, you know, missing posters up on telephone poles outside of town. Have you seen Willie Gay? Where is he? Anyway.
Yeah. Like it's such a weird thing to try to look at that and make any sort of a judgment going forward, because like you look at this game and honestly, like the stat lines for Kansas State are not impressive at all. Like they had less than 300 yards total offense.
Yeah.
And like they just like the biggest difference is that they got plays at key times, and on the other side for State, like they had, not that you can really have positively timed turnovers, but like they had turnovers at very bad moments. And like that one from Tommy Stevens towards the end of the first half, I think was just like, it looked like the Franks interception from the Miami game. Like he just threw it into a whole bunch of white jerseys, you know? And like,
yeah,
that's not good. And
That was you're talking about the one like right before Stevens came out of the game.
yeah.
Yeah. Like he came out of halftime and it was clear that his shoulder or whatever is hurt
Yeah,
was
like,
not okay. He just
Yeah.
lofted that ball.
yeah, it was just it was really odd. And so like you can see Garrett Schrader's talent and you can see that he's going to be okay, but also like again, like it's not a good situation to have a guy come off the bench and try to lead a comeback like that, and like even maybe stranger was that State looked like they had all the momentum going forward, and it was a little bit of like an opposite of the Kentucky-Florida game. Like they had the momentum, they went up, it looked like they were going to kind of cruise to it, and then Kansas State started getting plays again. It was just was weird.
And I think a lot of that is that kickoff return for a touchdown.
Yeah, that was rough.
Nothing shifts momentum
Yep.
like one massive play.
Literally
Yeah.
right after you take the lead.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what some fans I don't necessarily point to that as being like the reason for the loss necessarily, but
Right.
the play could have easily had kickoff returns and blocking the backs are like holding calls on any other play. Like it always happens. It can be called on any return. There's some fans that are clamoring for the fact that there should have been whatever. It didn't seem like it was like the reason, that the game went the way that it did. But it definitely was one of the biggest momentum shift for sure that pretty much solidified things from then on out,
Yeah, and like that kickoff return was especially weird because didn't he catch it like on the goal line and kind of thought about taking a knee and
he debated what he was
like
going to
it
do.
looked like everything
Yeah.
just kind of froze for a second and then suddenly he was gone.
Yep. It was weird. The weekend was weird.
Yeah.
That game was weird. That play was weird. Everything was so weird.
But the good news is that Kylan Hill is still basically a demigod. Towards the end of the game, he had that. They called it a stiff arm, but he just grabbed a grown man and threw him to the ground.
Yeah.
Like he pushed him away from him, like a middle school fight. You just pushed her for a while, but like he just one armed that dude to the ground. And I was like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah. It was like, man, I actually said to someone as I was watching that, I was like, man, that was awesome. I wish the play had gone for more than like 3 yards, but okay.
Yeah, no, but he's still really good, and it looks like Garrett Schrader can actually run the ball pretty well also. So, there's some potential for like that kind of thing going forward. I don't know what Tommy Stevens' injury outlook is going to be, and whether Joe Moorhead's going to think about maybe shutting him down for a few weeks to let it heal, if he's going to want to go forward with him next year.
Mhm.
And just let Garrett Schrader get some reps,
Well, Stevens, this is it for Stevens.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, he's
Well, that complicates it a little more.
yeah, exactly. He's a grad transfer, like redshirt senior. So this is it for him. He was coming in just to play one more year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. Hey, you guys want to talk about the weirdest game now? The weirdest
No.
one of the entire weekend? I'm sorry, Keith. But Kentucky, Florida ended up taking the cake of just bizarreness. You walked into this game knowing that two things, basically. Florida wanted revenge, and Kentucky was missing their starting quarterback who was developing into their key offensive player on this season and replacing the production that Benny Snell gave them last year. So you knew going into it, it's like, oh my gosh, like Florida might just like try to hang 100 on these guys to get revenge for last season. And historic Kroger Field was hopping, man.
It was, man. It was wild.
The place was bumping. And then it turns into this bizarre game where, like we already pointed out, like Sawyer Smith played quite well. And, and then, of course, you have the heartbreaking injury to Felipe Franks. Seemed to get what we Mississippi State people call the Nick Fitzgerald special on his ankle there. So just sucks for him. Hope that probably out for the rest of the season, what are some early reports are saying, but, hoping that he gets recovers well and everything for sure. But you just got a strange, bizarre game here in general. Keith, I'm going to jump to you, and because you're our resident SEC East correspondent. But this game, like, what takeaways are there?
So you know there's going to be a weird game when the opening drive, Franks throws like the Frank special interception at the goal line. Like one of those things where as he throws it, you instantly yell out "why," because you know it's going to be bad. And so like they get the interception, run it back a little bit, and then like 3 plays later, Sawyer Smith just mishandles the snap and puts it on the ground, and then looks like an old lady trying to pick up like a can of soup, just just kind of bending over at the waist, just fumbling for it.
God, I love a Keith metaphor more than just about anything else in this world.
And so like they turn it over, and it's like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. And sure enough, it was exactly one of those games. Like it was really bizarre. Like Kentucky, very similar to last year, Kentucky dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Less surprising that their defensive line dominated the Florida offensive line. But you could pretty much guarantee that was going to happen because, as we've mentioned several times before, Florida's starting like 4 freshmen, or not necessarily freshmen, but like 4 like new people who haven't played a whole lot.
From what I've heard, there are 4 walk-on true freshmen early enrollees that are all 15 years old.
Yes, they're math prodigies. But no, like it's been well documented that they haven't been good, and we all knew that like that was going to be the case. But maybe even more surprising is the fact that like Florida's got a really good front 7 this year again, similar to last year, and Kentucky's offensive line just like they did whatever they wanted to them, and Florida didn't have an answer, and Todd Grantham didn't have an answer. Like nobody had an answer. Kentucky looked like they were just going to run away with it. And
then what happened.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, Florida got a galvanizing moment when Franks went down.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you said, like it's like a Nick Fitzgerald special. It was a dislocated ankle that probably also had a break in there. Like you know it's bad when the commentators say we're not going to show that replay again.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Especially when in the past they've shown the injuries to like Marcus Lattimore over and over and over again. So when they say that we're not going to show it, it's bad. Like you knew that it was bad when 15, 20 seconds after the injury, after the timeout was called, like Franks is face down in the ground screaming.
Yeah.
And they moved his helmet to cover his face because it was like, it was bad. And Kyle Trask comes in. He's not a young guy by any means, but the interesting story about Trask is that he didn't start a game in high school. Like he was a backup in high school. He hasn't started the game in college. He's been a backup in college. And he comes in and basically in one quarter goes 9 of 13 for 126 and scores a rushing touchdown. And Florida goes 19 unanswered points and wins the game.
Yep.
So, but like one of the very concerning things about Florida right now is that their run game is basically going to be non-existent this year because their offensive line is not good at running the ball. Like they are not good run blockers. Michael Piron, who is a legitimately good running back, went 14 for 27 yards.
Is that bad? Hey, Chandler, can you get the ROTC interns to run those numbers?
Yeah, give me just a second.
Okay, thank you.
Florida's leading rusher was Josh Hammond on one play at the end of the game on a 76-yard touchdown run. Like, so Piron carries 14 times, Felipe Franks rushes 8 times, but like, Damian Pierce, sophomore physical phenom, gets 2
Keith,
carries.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've just heard back from the interns. They've crunched the numbers, and that is in fact bad. So
Thank you. We're gonna have to start paying those guys.
yeah, we will triple their salary right now.
We will not pay them because amateurism is the most sacred thing that we have here on ROTC.
It
So-
is. It's about
praise-
being a family.
Praise amateurism from whom all blessings flow.
Oh no!
But-
Oh
Yeah, so like Damian Pierce gets 2 carries, and Malik Davis, who had a breakout year 2 years ago, did not carry the ball once. Like, I think he caught like 2 passes or something, or was targeted twice. Speaking of targeting, we had 2 targeting calls in that game.
Oh geez, really? I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
and both guys got it. Like, yeah, it was such a weird game.
Yeah.
And even with all that happening, like, Florida takes the lead 22-21 on a touchdown run from Kyle Trask, and Kentucky gets the ball back and goes down the field and has a chance to kick a field goal with 58 seconds left to win the game, and misses it by inches. It's also one of the Florida offensive linemen, in a tribute to I just forgot his name, Cash Daniel, last year after the Florida win, when he got the 2 Gatorade bottles and smashed them together and drank it like Stone Cold. One of the Florida offensive linemen did the same thing last night in Cash Daniel's face, so that was weird and funny.
I didn't remember that part, but that is funny.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it from last year. I mean, great. Keith mentioned the galvanizing factor of having like your injured offensive catalyst in Felipe Franks, go down and the team can kind of rally around like that whole, like, facing adversity, all that sort of thing. It's kind of what you see, like the effect that happens with like interim head coaches, if a team performs better than normal, that sort of thing. It's not always sustainable. Do you think that this is even beyond the injury to Franks and him like missing the rest of the season sort of thing? Do you think it's worrisome for Florida to have to, to have to try to carry that, like, you're changing up your offense for a brand new quarterback and everything, but I mean, also at the same time to have to, find more motivation, like to rally around this guy again. You can kind of come down from like a hangover off the galvanizing factor. I don't know what sort of impact you think that has on Florida when you look at the rest of the season and maybe their plans moving forward.
That is an interesting question.
That's code word for that. Your question sucked.
No, I think it's interesting because a lot of the league is kind of going through that right now. And with kind of being unfamiliar with Trask.
I think everyone's unfamiliar with Trask from what Keith was just telling us.
Fair enough. And like what you said about the running game not clicking, I think Florida's kind of lucky that they're playing in the SEC East. I think having hopes of winning the East, we're not, Georgia, in my opinion, is kind of head and shoulders the cream of the crop in the East, and Florida kind of being a distant second, even with Franks. So how that affects the outlook looking forward, I don't know if it really changes all too much. Because Kentucky, I think, was, they were one of the better teams in the East too. When you come out with a 1-point win, having to rally behind your backup quarterback. So I think the season could still prove to be looked on in a positive light when all is said and done. Regardless if I don't think Franks is going to be able to come back, but I think that can be kind of a rallying point. With South Carolina too, they're going to have to go through it. I think that Polinsky, he's got the talent that the team can rally behind. I mean, he's shown that in his first SEC start. Schrader's got talent. There's a lot of young, really, really good quarterbacks in the league. Kind of venturing off your question a little bit, but
All good.
As far as Florida is concerned, I think they can still have a good year. But I'm watching the Falcons Eagles game right now, and they're showing that Garrett Schrader's helicopter jump.
Oh, okay.
He was 9 feet and 2 inches launched in the air.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never seen a player fly that high, honestly.
I mean, the angle that caused him to fly, it boggles my mind. It
Yeah.
really does.
He legitimately was a helicopter.
Yeah, he really did. That's a great point. You know, we've mentioned all of these teams now in the East, but the East is now, that's what, 3 starting quarterbacks out for the year in the SEC East between Wilson, Franks, and likely, oh gosh, I just blanked on South Carolina's
Jake
starter.
Jake
Yeah,
Bentley,
Bentley, thank you. I don't know if the word on Bentley was officially out for the year, but I think that's been the rumors. So that's crazy to happen in one division. Chandler, Kentucky coming out of this game had opportunities to win, of course, missed the field goal that would have put them ahead, and then collapsed on defense and then the ensuing, possible drive and everything. Do you think that's demoralizing? What do you think Kentucky's going through at this point in time?
This is going to be the biggest cop-out answer in the world, but we'll find out next week. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to play. They go to Starkville, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be potentially a close game. It's going to be a really competitive game, and they're going to have a chance to go and get a big win. Get a big win on the road, and so, I mean, it feels like a cop-out to say, but I mean, I think if Mark Stoops is the coach that he seems like he is, he's going to have them ready to play, and they'll prove, they'll have the chance to prove that last week against Florida was not a fluke, that they really are a team that belongs in that upper mid echelon of the SEC East. I don't know really what else to say other than that.
I mean, I think that's fair because it is hard to. You got to think it's demoralizing to come this close, especially to come that close to like back-to-back victories over this team. 2 years in a row, sort of thing. To come this close to. I mean, honestly, say what you will about, Florida getting that long touchdown to seal it at the end. You make that field goal, you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like most likely. There's probably a 90-something% chance because then Florida has to try to, throw long passes to get down the field for getting field goal range, all that sort of stuff, completely different sort of situation. So you got to think that's demoralizing. So that all the pressure is on Stoops right now to motivate the team to say, okay, we didn't do it that time. We were dealing with, figuring things out with Smith and, behind center. We're dealing with all that. Let's go out there and take advantage, this next week. You're absolutely right. It puts so much more emphasis on this Kentucky-Mississippi State matchup that already was building up to it, but combine that with Mississippi State's loss to Kansas State and the fact that they need to win this game, the Auburn game, or the Texas A&M game, 3 winnable conference games that could go either way, probably.
Mm-hmm.
They need like one of those in order to get to 7 wins. Most likely. It's crazy.
Yeah. Kentucky, Mississippi State all of a sudden becomes a massive, massive game.
So huge. As we all knew it, historical rivals, Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They always play weirdly interesting games. It's just one of those things. They play weirdly interesting games like that you wouldn't expect. Ole Miss and Vanderbilt's always, the weird ones, or Ole Miss and Arkansas actually.
Yeah, it's like State Kentucky is like Ole Miss Arkansas without the literal 30 to 50 feral hogs that wander onto the field at halftime.
Oh man, 30 to 50 barrel hogs. I had almost forgotten that entire like social media exchange happened, but I'm so glad that you just brought it back up.
I'll never forget it. It was beautiful.
What a good time. All right, I'm going to ask you guys a quick question, and then we're going to get to the predictions for week 4. So this particular question, I want to hear your thoughts on it. We've made it 3 weeks into the season. We have discussed in detail Tennessee and their issues. Man, so many. We've discussed a little bit of like Arkansas and like their struggles right now. They're facing, still trying to build out of nothing. Morris really had nothing to go off of, all of that. Outside of like the teams that we knew going into the season were going to struggle, is there someone that stands out to you as a team after the 3rd week going into the heart of conference play that should be worried moving forward? Chandler, anyone? We'll start off with you. Anyone stand out to you as a team that should be worried?
I think Florida should probably be worried. They've played 3 games. 2 of them were to teams that, based on hype and conversation going into the season, they played 2 teams that they should have beaten badly and kind of made it out by the skin of their teeth a little bit. And then now you've got to figure out this quarterback thing. And I mean, again, it's so hard to know because I don't know what Florida's realistic ceiling even was. But I mean, yeah, I think I'm probably worried if I'm Florida this year.
All right, Keith, who do you think should be do you have a rebuttal to that, I guess, but also who do you think should be worried moving into the rest of the season?
Well, I think Ole Miss should be worried. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, they might not make it to their expected 5 wins.
No, I 100% agree. Like there were a lot of questions coming into the season, but I think Florida fans felt confident in Frank's like growth at the end of last year, and so far he's shown that he's been more like 2017 Franks instead of like end of year last year Franks, where like the last 4 games of the year he looked like a Heisman caliber quarterback, and he's been shaky at best, and now he's out. LaMichael Piron has he came back in as a senior and was looking to have another big year, and I think through 3 games he has less than 150 yards rushing. Not a whole lot of that is on him because, as we discussed earlier, their offensive line is horrific at run blocking. And so if you can't run the ball and your pass game was already suspect and now your starting quarterback is out, and you've got a guy coming in to start who was a backup in high school and a backup in college, like where's the confidence? Like, you can say that it's in your defense, but they got lit up too Saturday. So like, as you guys said earlier, it's a good thing they're playing in the East where everybody else is terrible also. So I think just by nature of being in the East, they'll win probably 8 games, but those toss-ups against LSU and Auburn are now looking more like guaranteed losses, and hell, even the Florida State game is questionable right now.
Questionable as to whether Florida State will still have a program by the time that game comes around.
They'll probably fire Willie Taggart before then, and some coach will come in and they'll be looking awesome.
Yeah, they'll fire Taggart, and interim will come in, unite
and
the
just
team,
light the world on fire. Yeah, they're going to hire basically Ed Orgeron to remember the Titans them all the way to a bowl game.
that lemonade stand is making all $20 million, baby.
Oh yeah, no question. All right, Gray, your turn. You're up. Is there a team you look at that you think should be worried moving forward?
I think South Carolina, but more in particular, Will Muschamp, I think has some cause for concern in year 4.
Shocking.
Yeah, for sure. All the Gator fans out there, they're noticing what's going on. But in
Wait a minute, this looks familiar.
like in the East, having a 5th place finish and a 4th place finish, and now starting off the year 1 and 2, and your starting quarterback out likely for the year. It doesn't look good in year 4. I know that's usually the year where you really, really get evaluated, by the administration. I think he's got a lot to worry about. Maybe Helinski's going to come in and kind of be that spark that Muschamp has needed on the offensive side of the ball since forever, his coaching career. In South Carolina, they're always that team that is just, they never verge out of mediocrity, really.
Yeah.
So I think he needs to make a pretty strong push for 8 wins for his own sake. You know what I mean? So that's going to be a challenge for him, having to rely on a young guy to kind of lead that charge.
And the thing about South Carolina that is so weird is that they never seem to be able to get out of mediocrity, even when the opportunity is right in front of them, like last year. And like right now, they could have. It's just, I don't know. It's just one of those teams. I'm going to think a little bit outside the box here with my answer of who should be worried. And let's just say that this is the most vulnerable that Alabama has been in recent memory, especially with their defense looking like it is. Okay, I think that this should put a lot of pressure and be worrisome for Auburn and Texas A&M, because they're 2 teams that have looked okay, but have not looked great all season so far. And they may look at this and say, LSU might be returning to the top of the West, when we just recently were looking like we could take that second spot, take that spot waiting for Alabama to slip up so we take over, sort of thing. I think those are 2 programs that this is their chance to jump out of like the okay middle of the SEC West pack this season. And if they don't take advantage of it, that might not come back around anytime soon. So I think this should be a little bit worrisome for those two teams if they don't take advantage. Maybe that's a little bit too obscure, but that's what I'm going with. I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel bad at all. All right, I'm looking at last week's predictions on week 3. As always on the program, we predict the full SEC schedule. Then we predict Florida State. We have one random prediction on the week. Last week, I assume that Roe and Keith missed the Florida State-Virginia prediction. I wouldn't know this because the 2 answers I got for them on who would win that game was, quote, green eggs and ham and Peter Frampton from The Who. So I don't know if that was for Florida State or for Virginia. I'm going to just go ahead and say you guys missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we both definitely picked West Virginia because
West Virginia? They weren't even playing.
Mountain Mama.
And there's one thing I know for sure about West Virginia is that they're all a bunch of wahoos. Am I right, Chandler? High five. Okay,
Wrong.
sorry.
Wrong.
Yeah, so like those like joke picks came from when Chandler called them the Who's, and we all freaked out because no one on earth had ever called them the Who's.
There's official Virginia merchandising.
You made it up. You made it up, man. You made it up. All right, so I'm saying that you guys lost it, and therefore Chandler was in second place. Somehow I still had the most picks last week. But Chandler, you were in second place, so it's up to you to find the random prediction for this week. Is that fair?
Sure.
Do it, Chandler. Make me proud. In the meantime, let's run through these predictions here. Let's see what's a good starting point for the SEC slate. Let's go with man. There's actually some really good matchups here.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. Let's start with Southern Miss and Alabama. Southern Miss looks to be an okay at best team this year. Alabama will try to use this as an opportunity to, shake things off a bit here. Keith, the spread, is it set?
Oh, hold up. There's no
Hold
spread.
up. No spread as of yet.
Not for them.
Wow. What?
There's only 4 games on the site right now that have spreads.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
all right, maybe we just won't worry about spreads in this prediction time here. Well, let's just make the predictions. Chandler,
Prediction time.
well, actually, gentlemen, are we all going Bama on this one? Is it a unanimous Bama pick?
I feel good
Yes.
about Bama.
Roll
Yep.
Tide.
Yep. All right, there we go. Let's see. Here's another one that would probably be unanimous. The Louisiana State University Fighting Tigers travel to Nashville and play against Vanderbilt.
I'm gonna.
Is this a unanimous Vanderbilt upset
Yeah.
pick for all of us?
Them Tigers gonna go over to Nashville, to Music City. They're gonna lock the gate and they'll beat the Commodores or Coach O.
Let him play neck.
I'm gonna pick the Who's here.
Virginia's not playing in this game.
No. The LSU
No.
Fighting Football Tigers. The Who's. Give me.
Here's neck one more time. All right. LSU across the board for us here, looks like. All right. There's really no unanimous picks from here on out, it seems. Let's just go ahead and start with Kentucky at Mississippi State. In Starkville this year, of course, Kentucky took that victory last year. Both teams really want a rebound win. This one's tough. Chandler, you want to start us off?
I think I saw the spread was 8.5. I want to know.
Keith, can you verify?
There's no spread on here.
Keith, find a better website, apparently.
Yep.
This website is disappointing us.
I'm a have to.
Chandler, go ahead.
I have no idea. I'm inclined to say Kentucky because Kentucky's quarterback situation is at least settled, and that is an advantage over Mississippi State's quarterback situation right now, where you don't know if Stevens is hurt. You don't really. I mean, Schrader kind of gave you a little bit of momentum, but he still, I think, he only completed 4 of 12 passes or something. So there's just some concern that I would be concerned that he's not quite ready to play a game like that yet. So I think just because of the uncertainty at quarterback, I'll say Kentucky, but I don't feel great about it.
All right. So you're going Kentucky, not feeling great.
Right.
Not feeling great. Not feeling great. Dun, dun, dun.
Keith, are you feeling great?
Give me that blue wave for the reasons that Chandler mentioned.
All right. Blue Wave. Is that should be an official nickname of theirs, right?
Yeah. So right now, State's actually a 7.5 point favorite.
Okay. I'll write that down, but I don't believe it.
I don't either.
Gray, you're taking over for Roe this week, so I have you written down in my spreadsheet here as Roe/Gray. Gray, who you got in this one?
Give me the Dogs. Kentucky covers.
All right. A close one, but a victory for Mississippi State. I'm leaning that way as well. I think with it being a home game and with it being it'll probably still be 140 degrees, but it's not an 11 o'clock kickoff. And I think that makes a big difference because 11 o'clock kickoffs, nobody plays well during those. I'm going to say same as Gray. I think Mississippi State wins in a very close one.
By the way, Alabama is a 39 point favorite against Southern Miss.
Okay. I'll take Bama to barely cover. Let's go to the two teams. Auburn and Texas A&M played this week. The two teams I just mentioned earlier. Let's go to Auburn and Texas A&M. This matchup to kind of decide what team will probably be third in the West.
Yeah.
Well, what's the spread on this one? Is there one set?
Yeah. TAMU is a 3.5 point favorite.
All right, 3.5. I'm assuming because it is in College Station. So Chandler, you got a pick here.
Yeah, Texas A&M.
All right, Keith,
Same.
Gray.
Same.
Wow, this actually did end up being unanimous. That's interesting. Which means, without question, Auburn's going to win. That's just how these things work. South Carolina and Missouri.
Missouri is a 9-point favorite.
All right, 9 points in favor of Mizzou. Chandler?
You have to repeat that. I just saw news that Alabama just lost another preseason All SEC defender, probably for the year.
Wow.
So that's negative. So we're going with Missouri and who?
South Carolina. Who did they lose?
LeBron Ray, defensive end.
That's not good. They're already
somebody else on defense. Yeah.
Oh yeah, already shallow at that position anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
South Carolina, Missouri.
Missouri's a 9-point favorite, by the way.
Is it in Missouri?
It is.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Missouri. I mean, it's another it's another one of the first for Helinski, and I think that that Wyoming game for Missouri is an anomaly, and they're going to kind of get settled in, and I think they'll win this one.
Keith?
Yes, I'm going to go with the Zoo Tigers wearing their weird white uniforms from the Wyoming game.
All right. Gray, who you got?
I've got Missouri, and I believe this is going to kickstart Missouri to finish second in the East.
Triggered.
I like that pick, man. I like it. Bold, yet reasonable. Yeah, I'm also going to go Missouri in this one. I think that they're starting to hit the stride that like we thought they probably would. And so definitely going to go there. I'd somehow overlooked this one earlier. Doesn't look like an interesting matchup. Should have said it earlier in the predictions. San Jose State and Arkansas.
Ooh.
Is there a spread on this one, Keith?
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm scrolling.
Whew. San Jose State and Arkansas. Chandler, you want to go ahead and lead us off here?
I mean, it looks like Starkel's kind of taking control of the quarterback job there, and San Jose State's probably terrible. So, Arkansas.
Keith?
First of all, Arkansas is a 21-point favorite
Wow.
in them Blue Ridge Mountains. So I'm going to go with Razorbacks, Suey.
Woo pig.
Woo
Suey.
pig, Suey.
I'm pulling up San Jose State's schedules so far, by the way, just so we get some context. They've only played 2 games. They beat Northern Colorado 35-18 and then lost to Tulsa 34-16. All right. Gray, who you got?
I got the Hogs, but the Spartans, I believe, of San Jose State,
Got it.
You're correct.
they're going to cover that spread.
Ooh.
Oh, for sure.
21 points is a lot.
It is a lot for a team that just gave up 30 something points to Colorado State. Yeah. I'm with you on that one as well. Arkansas, but it's going to be an ugly game. Let's go with another non-conference matchup, the West Coast and the Southeast meeting, California and Ole Miss. If I'm not mistaken, Cal is like in the top 25 right now.
I don't know.
Okay. So I'll look that up. I'll fact check that real quick. Keith, is there a spread set?
Yes. Cal is a 2-point favorite.
All right. Cal, 2-point favorites. They are, according to this, they're number 23.
Yeah, didn't Cal upset somebody like last week?
Yeah, Washington.
Yeah.
That's right.
They've
They
got
beat-
a really, really good secondary.
Yeah. No, Cal's a really good defensive team, and Cal is a couple years ahead of Ole Miss in the rebuild. And I think just from watching Ole Miss play, the defense has been better, but it's been really inconsistent. Offensive line play has been really inconsistent. You've had a few bright spots. Elijah Moore's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty Phillips and Jaron Ely have been really good. But the offensive line and just the lack of experience in Matt Corral make a game like this really kind of nerve-wracking because Cal is such an experienced and disciplined and talented defensive team. So I think Cal wins.
Keith?
Cal Bears.
Cal Bears. Ro, who you got? That's right. I'm just going to call you Ro from here on out.
He is Ro Proxy.
I think the Berkeley Golden Bears are going to pull.
That was perfect.
Sweet mercy. I love it. An interesting non-conference matchup here is Notre Dame and Georgia.
Did you pick it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. I'm going to go with Cal 2. Cal 2 Electric Boogaloo. I don't have any great. I don't know about that travel from, Berkeley over to Oxford. I'm sure is exhausting on a team, but I mean, like you were saying, Chandler, they just are probably a couple steps ahead. That will probably make up for it. At this point, I'm kind of just hoping that it's like good enough weather where fans feel like going to the games in Mississippi.
Yeah, it's going to be at 11:00.
Oh, good Lord. I'm sorry. That's 11 o'clock is actually like what, 5:30 a.m. California time. So that might play against them. So
yeah,
it's actually 11 o'clock in the morning on Friday.
Right. Yeah. In Oxford, it's going to be Saturday, but Cal's going to be playing on Friday time.
Just put party tents around the entire stadium.
Yeah. Just to save people. All right, let's go. Notre Dame and Georgia. Keith,
Georgia's a 10.5-point favorite.
All right. 10.5 for those dogs. Chandler?
Georgia is about to go Martin Luther on the Catholics and hang 95 on them.
Woo! Wow. Keith, what you got?
Dogs. Oh, yeah.
Gray, you agree? Or I'm sorry, Ro, do you agree?
I got the Ugas, and they're going to cover easily.
Oh, man. I'm kind of torn on this one. I haven't really watched Notre Dame this season, so I don't know if they I don't know what type of team they are. But this is Georgia's first test so far this year. Like, Georgia really has not played very much. Vandy, Murray State, Arkansas State.
Let's hope they don't fake any punts.
Yep. So you know what? Why not? I'm gonna predict the upset. Fighting Irish shock the dogs and wake them up a little bit. So I'm just gonna go for it.
I'm calling PETA.
Yep. Shock collar the dogs. All right, Tennessee and Florida. We'll round it out the SEC with that matchup. Any spread on this one, Keith?
Florida is a 14.5-point favorite.
Very nice. This game already boring, Keith. Chandler, who you got?
Florida, easily.
All right, Keith, you agree?
I mean, listen, there's nothing easy about Florida football this year. It's in the swamp. Florida's going to win.
Gray, Row Gray.
Vol Navy sinking again.
I got the Gators, but what I'm more interested in is if there is a prop bet up this week for Philip Fulmer returning to the sidelines after halftime.
Yeah, can we have like a running Jeremy Pruitt watch? Or
it's not
Philip
happening
Fulmer watch
until after Alabama. Fulmer's not subjecting himself to that beating.
That's
What
a
if
good
it
point.
happens during Alabama? Philip Fulmer leads the team out of the tunnel.
Oh,
Well,
man.
like no, Philip Fulmer suits up for the team.
Yeah, no, he's their
Starting
starting
center.
quarterback.
Starting center. Oh yeah, that too. That too.
Philip Fulmer's going to take over for Willie Taggart. He sees more of a dumpster fire over there, and I need to go help those guys out.
He just
Starting
feels bad.
quarterback for Tennessee, head coach at Florida State.
All
What a
right.
guy.
I love it. I love it. I'm also going to go Florida in this one just because I don't see Tennessee. This is a great matchup for Florida, by the way. Like to work Kyle Trask into like the starting job and everything is to go, okay, this is a conference game, so there is pressure to it, but it's also like the biggest mess in the conference. So there's not
Right.
that much pressure.
It's a disaster across the field from him, and it's at home. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's going to be as comfortable as it could be.
As it could be. All right, Louisville and Florida State is our Florida State matchup this week. What's the spread, Key?
Ooh, let me hit that ACC button.
Hit that ACC button.
Hit that ACC. Let me get back to you because my regularly scheduled website does not have it on there, but I did see it on the other one. So give me
All
a
right.
few. Hold up.
That's fair.
No, there's
Hold
no
up.
spread on it at all.
Okay. Cool. There we go.
Odds makers not feeling comfortable.
Louisville is coming off of a victory over Eastern Kentucky and a victory over Western Kentucky. So Louisville has made the rounds in the rest of Kentucky so far. They started the season off by losing to Notre Dame 35-17. So Louisville not been good recently. Hoping that maybe this is their chance here to make to turn the corner. So Chandler, Louisville or Florida State, who you got?
I think both teams are awful, but I think that the coach, Blake Satterfield at Louisville, is going to have his team more prepared to play, and Louisville will beat the Seminoles.
Keith?
Pass.
All right. Fair enough. Roe Gray?
I'm going to go Louisville solely based off of what I saw in their matchup with Notre Dame. I think the final score doesn't really indicate the type of game that was. They put up a really strong effort. So I got the Cardinals. Give me the Cards.
I certainly will. I'm looking here, and their quarterback, his last name is Pass.
Yes, and
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm actually going Louisville here. I thought you understood that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're specifically predicting Juwan Pass.
Yep.
There's just like the only way that could have been better is if his last name was Throw the Ball, you know, and he
I
plays
don't
quarterback.
think they call him Jawan. I can't remember what he actually goes by, but it's a
Does
pretty.
he go by Boogie or
No.
Booby? Booby, I mean, like every running back has done since.
He actually goes by Sir.
Sir Pass.
or forward.
Forward pass. Quarterback for Louisville. All right.
Sir forward pass.
Chandler, do you have a random matchup for us?
Actually, I'm going Louisville, by the way. So.
I do have a random matchup for you.
I'm going Louisville also.
This week, the I'm trying to find out what their mascot is. I don't know. But Wingate University,
Ooh.
which is apparently in North Carolina,
Okay.
Wingate.
is
2019.
going to be taking on the Eagles of Carson Newman University. It will be available on ESPN3 should you decide to watch it for some reason.
Diocho. I'm
And
going to watch it.
Wingate is 2-0 after 2 road wins over Johnson C. Smith and Fayetteville State. And Carson Newman is 1-0 after a win over Western Florida. So, that's our random matchup for the week.
Wow.
And
Is that at Carson Newman?
no, it is at Wingate.
It's at Wingate. All right. I just needed to know that.
I'm guessing Wingate. Wingate looks like they're the Bulldogs. So
shocking. That's like half of all mascots ever.
Right, and then you've got again the other half of the Eagles. So
All right, Carson Newman and Wingate. That's our random matchup of the week. Chandler, why don't you start us off since you're closely tied to this matchup?
yeah,
Chandler's actually going to be at the game calling it, so he can't predict the score.
yeah, yes. Shoot, I don't know. Give me Carson Newman, I guess.
Yeah,
Woo!
like you have to. You're contractually obligated.
Oh, man. Keith, what about you?
I'm sorry to do this, but with a name like Wingate, hopefully there's some drama here, so we can make a whole lot of Wingate jokes.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great.
Yep, Wingate.
All right, Gray. We have Wingate versus Carson Newman as our random matchup of the week. Who you got?
I got to go with Carson Newman for my boy Seth Jones, alum of Carson Newman. He's on the golf team there. He's got a lot of passion for his school, and he passed it on to me. So for you, Seth Jones, I'm going Carson Newman, and there's no spread, but if there was, they'd cover that and then some.
Man, there's a lot of Carson Newman affiliation on this podcast these days.
Yeah, I may need to get to know this guy. Does he make a lot of money?
He is an 8th grade history teacher.
So, yes.
Yes, okay.
6 figures easy.
Oh, man. Well, you know what I've always said? Wingate, more like win the gate. I'm gonna go Wingate.
That's what they all said.
All right, this is running out the clock.
That's what they all said.
And this episode
Brought
is
to you
over.
by Wingate.